Okay, so we are live and we're going to just kind of chit chat and chill until people come in and meet us. I'm also going to, just so as people are coming in, you will notice that I will be looking up and down as I'll be checking my messages. I will
Okay.
get some of them on my live feed here with our guests, but then some of them I will not get. So I'm going to be looking
Got it.
around, but I am completely engaged in our dialogue
Got it.
this evening. Yes, yes. Good evening, folks. We are live. Come on in to this space. We welcome you into this space this evening. We cannot wait to start our conversation.
Hmm.
All of my any of my regular followers, any of my board members, I would love for you to let us know if you are live, if we are live and you can see us, and if there are any issues with sound, let me know. Like, it's okay, you can tell me so we can fix things as we go. We're going to keep it nice and loose. So good evening, folks. Good evening. Let's see here. Wonderful. Okay, yeah, I see our live video. Perfect. Perfect. Well, I love to be timely. So we're going to kind of begin our intro and our dialogue, and hopefully our folks will pop on in and see us talking. But good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Monique. I am the founder of the Heirloom Foundation. Extremely excited to be here with LaTim, who is at Plants for a King on IG. So I'm going to say our IG name several times so that you follow us. You know how important it is for us, those who are creators and influencers or working to be. To have a good, solid following of people who really care about the work that we do, and really, really want to support any move that we make.
Hmm.
So I'll say it a few times: at the Heirloom Foundation on IG, the Heirloom Foundation on Facebook, and at Plants for a King. So please make sure you follow us so that you can see what we are going to be up to in the coming months. So, with that being said, in our nature, in my nature, really is the name of this conversation, started about summertime of last year because I found out that we have a community of people that look like LaTim and I, that really not only enjoy but find healing experience in the earth and in the land with plants and in planting and gardening and all of this good stuff. And this is community that is growing, and we thought it would be really great to have these conversations. Not just about plants and eating food, which is one of my favorite topics, and growing, gardens, but also how these things have helped us to heal from and process through life.
Hmm.
If we are living, we're going to experience some sort of trouble. And it is always good to kind of collect things and resources to help us through those things instead of just being completely shocked and appalled that we're going through some kind of, trial or
Hmm.
tribulation.
Hmm.
We know what's going to happen. And it's good to have our tool belts kind of filled with all
Hmm.
the right equipment that we need to work through them. And in
Hmm.
our community, it is outdoors, it is plants, it is the earth. So, with that being said, I'd love to introduce LaTim and just allow him to speak of himself and who LaTim is for a few moments. You're welcome into this space, sir.
All right. Thank you so much again, Dr. Monique, for having me. It really is an honor to be here on your platform, and that you didn't think of it as robbery to invite me to come in. So thank you for that. My name is LaTim, Plants for a King on Instagram. And I am just a lover of nature, a lover of animals, plants, and I'm also a registered nurse. By day, that's my main job, but really I love plants and what they do for us and what they've done for me. And really I've been around them all my life. So I'm just honored to really open up and show how much plants have really played a big role in my life. So I'm just so super excited.
Awesome. And I think the more we talk about it, I can see people who are not necessarily into this will be like, what are y'all talking about? Like, how
Right.
in the world could plants mean anything? And,
Yes.
some of us may go as far to personify, the plant experience, but I think many of us just know that there's a connection to the space, that there is healing. And last week we talked to a scientist, but this idea of what plants do in the earth,
Hmm.
cycling our oxygen, right? Allowing us to
Hmm.
find restoration in our breathing and all of that. They do
Hmm.
the same thing for us individually. They do the
Yes.
same thing for us emotionally. And I think that our role, I think that God calls us to care for the earth so it cares for us. So there
Yes.
is a connection. I hope the more that we have these conversations, people understand that and learn to embrace and value that.
Absolutely.
So tell us. We always start with the story. And I let everybody know. I forget to tell people sometimes. So I'm going to say right now that stories for heirloom are sacred ground. Stories are very sacred because people are open and vulnerable for. So we are only hoping for people in this space who are open to hearing and holding someone in their vulnerable space. So I want to thank you for being willing to tell your story this evening. And we want to know what has led you. Just tell us your journey all the way up to plants. What has happened in your life that eventually led to your passion?
Okay. Well, first of all, I have been around plants my entire life. I come from a family of farmers. My mother was raised on a farm, and my father, he had his dad, my granddad, had land, and they did tobacco. Tobacco was a really big thing. But my mom was raised on a farm, so she grew up when they had the sugarcane, peanuts, all the crops, all the cows, chickens, horses, pigs, all the stuff you think of. It was a typical farm. So I grew up knowing that black people
Mhm.
did farming. So it's nothing new for me to see. And my grandmother, she always had a ton of plants.
Mm.
Ton of plants. She always had plants. That's my main memories of my granny is her dealing with her flowers and her plants and stuff like that. And you better not touch her plants. That was something else. She will get you about her plants. Do not mess with her plants and her flowers. She will get you.
Mhm.
So growing up, I've always been around them. But as a kid, you're just like, oh, here she is with these plants,
Yeah.
or I can remember memories of her. My uncle had horses, and she would tell us, go back there and get some of the horse manure, bring it back so I can put in my plants.
Right.
And you just be like, oh God.
Like, are you serious?
Right, here we go again. And so I've always been around them. And I remember she even gave me a plant, my first plant I ever took care of, and that was a Christmas cactus. That was the
Mm.
first plant she gave me. So I remember that. And I took care of it for a little while, and then I ignored it and let it die because I was a young teenage boy.
Mhm.
Um, and I just remember some things like growing up in the country. I remember this me transplanting my first plant, which was
Mm.
this little small maple tree that was probably about yay big.
Mm.
Wasn't that big, and I always liked how the leaves on the maple tree looked,
Okay.
and I
Yes.
was I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and so I went and got it and transplanted it. And this year I actually went back to visit my dad. Hadn't been there in a while, and the tree is taller than I am now. So, I planted
Wow.
that tree when I was probably like, I transplanted the tree, I probably was around 13
Okay.
when I transplanted the tree, and now it's taller than I am.
Yes.
So, I've always been around it. Well, I kind of got away from it, but I have an aunt and she loves plants and flowers and stuff too. Her stuff looks like, I always tell her that her stuff puts my stuff to shame because
Oh,
they always grow so big and they're just so pretty.
yes.
And so I kind of just was looking at her one day and I was like, I just love how she looks when she's dealing with her plants. And I was like, eventually one day I'll get back to it.
Right.
Well, back in 2019, I had an incident that occurred that
Mm.
kind of brought up some childhood trauma.
Okay.
Um, and I was living every day with just negative thoughts of myself, of me, or
Mm.
just a bunch of old stuff that I had buried, came back up to the surface,
Yeah.
and had never really dealt with it.
Yeah.
And instead of me trying to really deal with it, I started finding myself in my yard more, doing
Mm.
stuff in my flower beds and my
Mm.
plants and stuff like that. And I was using it to silence my mind, to get rid of the thoughts. So little did I know that was a form of meditation, that I was using
Mm.
the plants as a form of meditation.
Yes.
Um, and then it just, I still having issues, even though I was utilizing the plants. And so eventually I did get into traditional talk therapy,
Yes.
uh, and was realizing that the thoughts and stuff I was having came from when I was 17 years old.
Mm.
Literally had just turned, haven't even been 17 for a month. Um, and my a situation happened, and my mom ended up being incarcerated when I was
Mm.
17 years old.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't realize, the whole time after, at 17 and throughout my 20s, I'd never had any type of therapy,
Mm.
no type of anything. Didn't even want to say I had childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Didn't even want to
Did
call it.
you have the language for that though? So
Right.
17, this happened. How did you process that? In what way did you see I mean, negatively or positively, how did you process that happening to you, to your family, to your mother at that moment?
At that moment, numb.
Mm.
It was numbness.
Mhm.
It was, how do I feel? How am
Yeah.
I supposed to feel? But
Mm.
then I felt like I need to be strong, because
Mm.
I also went through bullying as a child.
Yes.
So, it was what happened was very publicized. It was
Mhm.
all over the news.
Mm.
I'm from a small town.
Yeah.
Everybody knew or thought they knew what went on.
Mhm.
And then there was the stigma of, if it happened in my household, obviously I had something to do with it.
Hmm. And
This didn't only come.
that is traumatic. So the issue itself is traumatic, but now people are projecting what they think
It didn't,
on
and
you
the
as
thing
a
is,
child.
it didn't only come from the kids. It came from adults as well.
Mm.
Adults as well, saying things and treating you differently, or
Yes.
people that were family friends looking at you weird.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it just was. It was very. I went back to school probably 3 days after it happened, because
Mm.
that was my way of showing strength. I wanted to show that I was strong,
Yes. So
and
you
that I
pushed yourself past any kind of processing healing, because first of all, you didn't even know anything about that. You're
no,
17.
yeah,
But
I was a
then
kid.
you were feeling very much you felt like you were required to look stronger with this than what the
I
situation
was.
was.
I
Okay.
did. I did, because I felt like I got to show that it's gonna be okay.
Mm,
That
yeah.
I am okay.
I'm okay. This is okay. Like it's
Yeah, it'll
cool. It
be all right.
happened.
And walking. I'll just tell one of the examples of something that happened when I went back to school. Um, I was told to take something to another teacher by my teacher. She said, "Will you take this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll go ahead." When I walked into the room, it was a computer class. When I
Mm,
walked into the computer room, they had the news reports up playing of what happened to
mm,
my mother when I
mm,
walked into the classroom.
mm. The things that we do to damage ourselves in our own community, especially when it's in the control of an adult.
The teacher was sitting there, and when I walked in, he looked like he saw a ghost.
Oh my goodness.
So I walk in, and the first thing I hear is, blah blah blah, charges are pending. And I look on the screen, and there's the picture of my mom.
Yeah. Mm.
Um, and after I just was like, and everybody was looking like, oh my God, I didn't expect him to walk in.
Right. Right.
And so it just was, and it's still to this day.
Yeah.
Still to this day, there's still a stigma. There's
Yeah.
still people saying stuff about my family and me and
Yes.
stuff like that. And that's something now I can deal with. But then I just kind of pushed it out of my mind. So it was
Yes.
like I had to deal with people saying things, and people not knowing how to approach me and were
Yes.
afraid of me,
Yes.
or not knowing what to say to me, or
Yes.
it was just a lot of stuff. Um, so the way I processed it is pretty much just pushing past it, like as if
Yeah.
nothing happened.
Yeah.
Ignored it for years. And then I started, as I got older, I started talking about it more, and
Yeah.
that kind of gave me healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that moment when everything happened, I was just numb. Like
Mhm.
when, I'll never forget when my aunt and my dad came and told me, my brother, the truth of everything that happened.
Yes.
I didn't even cry. I didn't even
Yeah.
have any, I was just like this. I was just, I didn't
Mhm.
have any emotion.
Yeah.
Um, and so I feel like throughout the years I've had ups and downs of emotion, but it was like a lot of, and so it just brought up all kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and being a product of childhood bullying already, you know, people that even that I would want to say were friends,
Mhm.
they weren't really friends. Not
Right.
when I got older and thought back, because whenever I was the center of the joke, nobody said stand up for yourself, or nobody stood up for
Mm.
me.
Mm.
So it was, it was just, it was a mess. It was a mess.
Yes.
Rumors, and it's just it was a mess.
Yes.
So I just pushed past it and
Mhm.
just act like nothing,
Nothing
act
happened.
like I was okay
Right.
and nothing affected me,
Yes.
pretty much, because I had to show that strength. I had to
Right.
show that I was strong, and that
Right.
I was not gonna be affected by that. I wasn't gonna be a statistic. I wasn't just
Yes.
because this happened to my mother, I'm gonna go do
Yes.
this and da 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 da. Da.
Right.
So it was all the way I really processed it is I really dug in and tried to use my strength and put my strength on my sleeve.
Yes. And it would be really, and I think we're finally in a place now that we're redefining what strength means, right? So
Mhm,
strength does not mean that we endanger ourselves further by sweeping through the carpet, by burying things, by ignoring things. That the
mhm,
strength really comes from being vulnerable in a safe space,
exactly.
to try to find a way out. And so
Mhm.
you eventually found the safe space, but it happened at 17. When did you finally tap into therapy?
I was 31 years old.
Mm, that's a
I
long
was
time to hold on to that.
I was 31 years old when I ever got into therapy. I
Mm,
was 31 years old. And that was once I had spiraled down into a dark place,
yeah.
and didn't know what depression was.
Hmm.
Well, I knew what depression
Hmm.
was, but I'm one of those people that are those dangerous types of people with depression. I'm
Okay.
like, how when people say, "Well, I didn't know, somebody commits suicide," and they're like,
Hmm.
"I didn't know he had." I work
Yeah.
when I'm really like, I
Yeah.
work, or I try to silence my mind, which is how
Yes.
the plants came into place. I was like, I just need to do this
Yes.
to silence my mind. Silence is good, but not when you're not facing what is the real issue.
Right, right. So you were hiding it. So for years it was just kind of hidden under the strength idea,
Mhm,
but then you began to hide it actively under work.
mhm,
And then you find a therapist. And the
mhm,
therapist, you told me something that I really, really loved. And we're going to point back to this plant thing.
uh-huh,
You found a therapist that you told what that you had started you kind of using the plant
mhm.
therapy or
Uh-huh.
plants as a way to silence these thoughts, but your therapist gave you another way to cope, another way to speak to them. So tell me how that shifted. You began to go out there and quiet yourself and grow plants and buy plants,
Mhm.
surround yourself with plants, but your therapist said to do something else. What was that?
Yes. My therapist was like, "Okay, what do you think about when you're dealing with your plants?"
Okay.
And I'm like, "Nothing."
Yeah.
He was like, "You should talk to them. You should talk to your
Hmm.
plants." And
Hmm.
I was like, and I had heard that. And then so one day I noticed I had this group of plants, and these plants were plants that it is really hard to kill them. They are those
Yes.
plants that you get because you're a beginner, and it's almost they're virtually you cannot kill them.
Right.
But I started noticing that when I did start doing that and talking to those plants, the plant started dying.
What were you saying?
And I was like, why are they dying? And then the realization came to me. I was speaking all of my negative emotions and thoughts onto those plants.
Mm.
And I was using them to talk about what was bothering me and, stuff like that. And as I was dealing with them, I was just like talking really, just I was purging everything, all that toxicity out of me. I was purging everything into those plants. And they just started dying, and I was getting more upset they were dying. But one day the realization came, and I was like, wait a minute. I do remember reading an article that plants, are affected by emotions. That it's been scientifically proven that plants, if you speak negative to one plant and positive to another one, it affects them.
Yes, I was going to bring that up because we heard that in like elementary school and middle school when we were doing science experiments.
Yes, and I
Um,
remembered that.
yeah, that you can, we had the two different student groups that would kind of
Mm-hmm.
speak positively and speak
Mm-hmm.
negatively. And we think about these things kind of like back of our mind, happenstance. Maybe it was the particles from our, from our mouths. We
Mm-hmm.
come up with all these reasons why we think they are scientifically, but
Right.
really, we have to deal with the fact that these are emotional reactions
Mm-hmm.
that they are absorbing and taking in. So you're taking these plants and you're
Uh-huh.
fussing because in a way you're fussing at yourself.
Right.
Okay, so you realize they're dying. Then what?
And then I was like, and so I remembered it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get these same type of plants,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna say the good things, and I
Mm.
would look at them as if they were me.
Yeah.
And I would just say, you're loved, you are beautiful, you're
Mm.
not your mistakes, you
Mm.
are more than that, you are successful. And then they
Yeah.
started flourishing. I had plants that were just growing, and I had this golden pothos, and it just started trailing. And
Mm.
so then I would go to I still had those plants that
Mm.
I still would say purge everything onto.
Okay.
And that's when it came to my mind that the plants were dying, but that was us. They were meant to be a sacrifice for me.
Mm.
They were meant to be a sacrifice. That's why they came into my life,
Yes.
was for them to be a sacrifice for me to start the process of healing. And I didn't realize that it was my inner child calling out to those plants, because I got plants because I saw how happy my aunt was and how she
Okay.
was doing with hers. And I
Mm.
remembered why my granny had all these plants around. And I wanted to go back to that happy place to when I was a child before anything happened.
Yeah.
And the good memories.
Yes.
So it was my inner child that was drawing me back to something that was familiar, that was
Yes.
tangible,
Yes.
that I can have right here in the right now.
Yes.
I can't go running down the street riding on a tricycle, to
Right.
heal my inner
Yes.
child. But I can sit here with these plants and think about me going to get the horse manure for my granny. And,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it would then make me think about all the other things we did as kids. And,
Yes. Because your background is slightly different than many, because there are people who will say, I got into gardening, I got into planting, and I didn't realize that I had family who had been doing this. So they would kind of dig into history
Mhm,
that was before them and realize, oh, my grandfather was a master gardener. Oh,
mhm.
my grandmother did these things. But you actually have a point of reference for
Right,
when this was a good thing for you. And
right.
I think what I'm hearing is like also what has shifted was that and so I think I told you, I'm very practical when I come to planning. I want to see like food produce. I want to say I have a lemon, I have, a pepper.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people are opposite and don't want to grow food, but love, just to have the beauty in the home.
Yes.
And
And I
so,
do have stuff outside too.
yes. Oh, you have outside too?
Yeah, I have right now. I have some lettuce growing. I have some uh greens, collard greens.
Yes.
I had some peppers, but the cold killed them. I have
Yeah.
strawberries now. So I'm getting into the food now. I have some herbs right now. The
Yes.
only thing that can handle the cold right now is the sage, my
Ah,
parsley.
do you
So
remember your
now,
grandmother doing anything special with the herbs? Is there anything that she used to, aside from cooking,
mhm.
any tinctures, any teas that you remember
I
your grandma?
remember Now I don't remember her doing anything with the herbs besides
Mm-hmm.
cooking,
Mm-hmm.
but I do remember my dad telling me a story about like when they were younger, like if they got a bee sting or something, like they would take the chewing tobacco or take the chewing tobacco, and like
Uh-huh.
if they were in the field, they would
Uh-huh.
take the tobacco, chew it, and then put it on the bee sting, you
Huh.
know, and stuff like that, or taking, now, and my grandfather, like one thing he did was my grandfather made moonshine.
Okay.
But he, to sweeten his moonshine, he would take raisins and put raisins in his moonshine,
Huh.
um and different stuff like that. So different little things they did with plants, like taking like what was it, mint leaves, and
Mm-hmm.
putting the mint, crushing up the mint leaves and doing different stuff with that to sweeten things. Or
Yes.
like, talking about how they would take the sugar cane, and my mom and my aunts can remember
Mm-hmm.
my granny in the kitchen over the hot stove, like turning the sugar cane to make the syrup and stuff like that. So
Yes.
all
Yes.
kinds of stuff, and I grew up, we had a garden every summer and fall. We had a garden year round, but we
Wow.
would do, in the summertime, we would do all kinds of stuff. So I grew up like with an actual garden, like a garden, like
Yes.
get up early in the morning, put on your flannel to go out and pick not cotton, corn, before
Yes.
it got too hot, one.
Yes.
But you need to have the long sleeve flannel on because the corn will make you itch from going out there and
Yes.
picking it. So I remember stuff like that.
Yeah.
um
You've got more history and understanding than probably 90% of the people.
yeah, digging up
A
the
friend of
peanuts.
mine from Alabama said she heard of the tobacco part before too. So
Yes.
that's news to me. Wow.
Yeah, they would check, like if you got a bee sting or something, like they would take it and chew up the tobacco and put it on the bee sting.
Wow. That is really something. And I love to hear, you know, I don't think plants grow the way they used to. I think that because the
They don't. I
soil
feel
and
like
all
they
the stuff,
don't.
yeah, I feel like it's all kind of changed. But if we had, the quality of earth and soil to plant the way that they do, I
Hmm.
could see the potency and the power of using, things like that. And it still happens. I mean, herbs, I'm all for it. I love it.
Yeah.
But I kind of mourn the idea that we don't get the power in those things like we used to,
Right.
because we don't have the same kind of earth, same kind of
Yeah.
space. So tell me this. So now that you've seen the power in plants, and now it's to kind of change the way that you raise and purchase and utilize these plants. Is there something that you're doing special with Plants for a King? Why did Plants for a King become a thing? How did that happen?
Well, it was kind of nerve-wracking at first because
Hmm.
I went through a whole fiasco
Hmm.
with a social media incident. But I really loved what plants were doing for me, and it
Hmm.
started when I was watching, one person that had plants and stuff, and I said, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and post my plants
Hmm.
because I just love how they're looking. I had a ton of snake plants, which I still
Uh-huh.
do. Snake plant is like, that's my favorite. That's my
Uh-huh.
favorite plant because I found with snake plant, one thing is they're resilient,
Yeah.
and that resonates with me
Mm.
so much.
Yes.
And so I wanted to take a picture. I was like, I'm gonna take a picture with me and my snake plants.
Yes.
And I got my cousin to come over. She did a photo shoot. It's my very first post on Plants for
Uh-huh.
a King.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'm gonna do that. And so when I did that, I started seeing more people that look like me. And I was
Okay.
like, oh,
The
there's a
output
lot
is
of
from
there's a lot of
pulling
us
things.
everywhere that
Yeah.
are loving these plants, and loving the house plants and loving gardens and stuff like that.
Yes.
So then I was like, okay, I'm posting my plants. I got over the fear of posting myself and posting my
Mm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to put myself on social media.
Yes.
Um and then I didn't like the sound of my voice. I'm just getting to
Mm-hmm.
where I like the sound of my voice, so
I
I didn't
understand
want to speak.
that.
Um, and I've noticed that doing that has also been therapeutic for me because, like I said, from the childhood bullying and all that
Yes.
stuff, I noticed that I was still thinking with that 17, 16 year
Yeah.
old kid.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that was been a type of therapy for me as well. I
Mhm.
had to stop letting the 17-year-old LaTim live for the 31-year-old LaTim and the 32
Yes.
year old,
That's
now
powerful.
33-year-old. I had
Yeah.
to stop letting a lot of ways I did grow up, but a lot of
Mhm.
my thoughts and stuff process was still back in that child. So
Mhm.
Plants for a King has been a way for me to push past some fears.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but then as I got in the community, I started seeing all these people like, like yourself and
Mm.
Condo Plant Mama, who is Davia,
Yeah.
and
He's fabulous.
Plants and Stones, which is Z, and
Yes.
Brown, Brown Skin Plant Mama, Veronica, all these people,
Yes.
and what they were doing and how they were utilizing their platforms to reach others.
Yes.
And so I was like, well, what can I do? Because I'm like, I could do merchandise, but I
Mhm.
feel like my
Mhm.
heart wouldn't be in that.
Right.
What can I do to be an influence,
Yeah.
on others?
Yeah.
And that's when I said, I'm a nurse.
Mhm.
I like to teach.
Mhm.
I know about health.
Mhm.
Well, what can I do? I could talk about, medicinal plants. So
Yeah.
that's where my live series Medicinal Plant Monday came from.
Yes. We're gonna
And
pause. Don't forget your next words. Everybody. LaTim does medicinal plant Mondays at Plants for a King. So please make sure you all chime in and support
yes,
as he continues to grow his work and initiative. We start somewhere. We just start with these conversations. Everyone does not start doing a photo shoot in LA,
right.
on, all decked out. Like we don't start like do we want to do that? Mm, I won't say no. But what
Yeah.
I will say,
Yeah.
start with these conversations. And so please support that. And I also, Tim, wanted to kind of share some of the encouragement that's coming to you. So DJ says, thank you, LaTim, for being vulnerable and expressing your journey. I can resonate with being a kid and trying to appear strong. I wish you all the blessings as you stand in your sovereignty.
Thank
And
you.
then Latanya says, you sound great. Perfect voice for you.
Oh,
And,
thanks.
and then growing up Torres, who we're going to see in a week or two. Hello. Love the Black plant community. So we've got folks who are like loving this, loving this, loving this.
Yes,
Um,
it's beautiful. It's
oh,
absolutely beautiful. I I've really met so many nice people in this
mhm,
community, and
mhm.
I love how warm and welcoming everyone was. And that's what made me want to just like instead of just posting my plants, be more involved. So
Yes,
that was a really big thing for
yes.
me. And thank
And this
y'all so much for
voice,
your comments.
yes, this voice in children who've had incarcerated parents, we don't I feel like we love children to an extent in our society. I think we fail
Mhm,
them all the time.
mhm,
But we do tend to put the issue or the sin or the actions of the parent on the child, and now we have kind of marred them for life. And so
mhm,
I had done a bit of work with children in care, and a lot of them had children who had parents who were incarcerated, and a lot of them didn't have the language, didn't know what to say, wouldn't even mention that they had this challenge or this issue.
mhm,
Now that you are 33-year-old on the journey to healing, LaTim,
mhm,
Plants for a King, LaTim, registered nurse, and have now learned what it means to communicate well to yourself,
mhm,
and to support yourself until you build a support system, with everyone else. Now that you're him, what
mhm.
do you say to a child at 16 years old when they say, okay, my dad is in prison? What do you say to that child? What are we going to do? What kind of tools are we going to put in his or her tool belt in order to
Mm. I'm gonna try to say this without getting emotional.
okay, and that's okay. So you breathe deeply, take your time, no rush.
um, the first thing I would say is not the end.
It's not
It's not the end. It's the
mm-hmm,
beginning.
mm-hmm,
It's the beginning of a journey that you don't know which way is gonna go.
mm-hmm.
But know within yourself that your parents' choices were not your choices.
Yes. Yeah.
And no matter what people say about you, to you, just know that is not true. And when you get to be 25,
Mm-hmm.
30,
Mm-hmm.
31, and 33, you're going to be able to look back at that child, because that's something I had to do, is look at myself as a young child and
Yeah.
speak life back into me and say, you made it.
Yes.
You
Yes.
made it. You
Yeah.
made it. And you are not your parents' mistake.
Yes. Mm.
And know
Mm-hmm.
that it's not about you.
Yeah.
Okay. Understand that it's not about you. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about you. It's about you, but it's not about you.
Yeah.
And what I mean by not about you is the reasoning behind what happened, the reasoning behind, behind why people are going to say things, the reason why it's not about you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What it's about is about the light inside of you.
Yes.
And
Oh,
how are you going to let that light shine?
yes.
Find someone that you trust
Yes.
and talk with them and let them know what you need, because
Mm-hmm.
you know what you need. You
Yeah.
know what you need, and find that light within. All the answers you need are in here. They're
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
You have
Mm-hmm.
everything you need inside of you.
Yes.
You can still be successful. You will still be successful. You are
Yes.
successful. You're loved.
Yes.
You're loved. You might
Yes.
not feel it every single day,
Mm-hmm.
and it might not be easy every single day,
Yes.
but find that one thing that is a passion for you
Mm-hmm.
and hold on to it, and drag everything you can out of that
Mm.
to breathe life back into you.
Yes.
And you're going to find people and things that's going to breathe life into you. And when you find those things, you hold on to them tight and you don't let them go. You
That's
hold
good.
on to them and don't let anybody or anything take them from you.
That's good.
Second of all, when you get to be the same age as your parents,
Mm.
when they committed whatever crime or did whatever thing they think they did, think about where you are
Mm-hmm.
and where you are
Mm-hmm.
and where they could have been
Hmm.
and what situation they could have been in.
Yeah.
Because my mom and dad had me and my biological brother and 3 foster children in the home.
Mm.
I, at that age, could not even fathom
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't even fathom that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't lose respect. You might be hurt by what they did to cause the turmoil and
Mm-hmm.
things that happen in your house, but don't lose respect for them,
Wow.
because you're going to be able to have a conversation with them one day,
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to need time to heal,
Yeah.
just like you need time to heal.
Yeah.
Love yourself. That's the biggest thing for me, is love yourself. Love yourself. Love yourself.
Mm.
Know who you are,
Yeah.
because people are going to say things and do things to make you second guess who you are. And that was my worst mistake,
Mm.
is allowing what others said
Yes.
or did make me second guess who I was.
Yeah.
Have I made mistakes? Yes.
Mm.
Have I hurt some people? Yes. But I had to realize, I am not my mistake. I always tell myself this: I am not my mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I am not my victories.
Yeah.
I'm a mixture of them both.
Mm-hmm.
What makes me who I am today.
Mm.
I'm a mixture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because some people wanna get away from the mistakes they made,
Yeah.
or not even talk about the victories that they've had. But you got to think about both of those, because those are what molds you into who you are.
Yes.
So the first thing I would tell them is love yourself. Love
Yeah.
yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
remember who you are.
Yes.
And don't let anything that somebody else did or somebody else says about you or your parent deter you from knowing who you are and loving yourself.
Mm.
Love is the biggest thing. Self-love.
Yes.
Dig deep and find the self-love. Find the beautiful things about yourself, and
Yes.
tell yourself something beautiful about yourself every single day.
Mm. You are saying so much, and you do know you're not just speaking to children of incarcerated parents.
No.
because all of us have to recite these things in our minds regularly. There are more things societally and more things internally that tell us different than affirm us.
Mm.
And we have to always have the script in our mind that says, like you said, I love myself. I
Mhm.
am whole, or I am healed and I am healing. This
Yes.
affirmation thing, we talk about it a lot. And I think that, there are some communities that might reject the idea of affirmation, but affirmation is literally what you did or didn't do with those plants. You either
Mhm.
spoke life or you spoke death.
Mm.
Affirmation is that life.
Mm.
And you said that, and you're saying that now, and you're pouring
Mhm.
these things into all of these
Mhm.
plants who are listening and saying, I need to hear that. I want to tell you what's going on here. We have Latanya, who said the silence and shame of incarceration are definite sources of intergenerational pain within the Black community.
Mhm.
DJ says, ooh, that's all DJ said. Ooh. And Corona Torres says this comes up a lot, especially in raising my children. DJ said this is so good. I am not my mistakes. I am not my victories. I'm a mixture of both. I needed that.
Mm.
So, I want to just affirm the one thing I want people to understand is that it is not easy. Yeah, it's a click of a button to be live, but it's not easy to be live and authentic. Not these days.
No.
Going live means that I have made myself up. Going live means that I am in a location that is not my own and that
Mhm.
I'm going to show people a life that I want. But I think going live in true vulnerability is a whole different level of
It
courage.
is.
And I really, really appreciate this community of people that are growing and understanding how important and how
Mhm.
vulnerable this space is. And I think we all have each other's backs and support, but you are doing the work already. You don't
Mhm.
need, side note, he's got some business endeavors that are happening, but you don't even need those to happen for you to do what you're doing now,
Mhm.
encouraging and speaking those words into people.
Mhm.
I go back to, ever since I've really kind of dove into this idea of earth and plants and all this other stuff. As a theologian, I go back to Genesis a lot. And
Yes.
anytime I go back to Genesis and I read and reread, I think about the fact that as God spoke things into the earth, God was speaking this affirmation into the earth, into this
Mm.
void, into this space, and
Yes.
saying, you are this thing and you will function as this thing. There was no thing that God spoke in these spaces that
Mhm.
didn't have a very specific purpose and reason on this earth.
Mhm.
So when God said fish, and God said trees, and God said ocean, and God said air, and all of
Mhm.
these things, they were placed to truly be to work in their fullness. Air
Mhm.
was not spoken into existence to be dirt.
Mm. Mm.
Dirt
That's
was not
good.
spoken into existence to be light.
Mhm.
All of us were spoken into existence to have the exact voices that we needed
Mhm.
for the people that need to hear them. There is enough. There's enough people. There are enough people. There's enough issue. There are enough traumatic situations that all of our voices can speak in chorus at
Mhm.
one time and reach the right ears. The right
Mhm.
ears. And you are reaching, and you're going to continue to reach these voices, these ears that are peaked to hear
Mhm.
those affirmations. So I'm speaking that for you. Someone said,
Look,
"Can you
thank you.
share this link to Plants for a King when it's over?" So this is what I'm going to try to do. The reason why I'm starting to do, thank you for asking that question, starting to do YouTube is because you should be able to copy and like copy and paste it
Right.
and share the link. So anybody who wants to share, I think is much easier now that it's on YouTube. So I
Mhm.
think we're on Facebook, Maricel. If you can go on IG and then go to at the Heirloom Foundation and click on the link, then you'll be able to find the YouTube a lot faster.
Yeah.
And you can utilize that link. So we'll do our best to share. That's why I
Yeah.
want to go this particular way. So with that, we're going to wrap things up, and we're going to continue to be in this space where we're affirming you in
Yes.
space.
Yes.
And I'm going to do our rapid fire affirmation. I tell people all the
Okay.
time, I didn't make this up completely, some of it. Rapid fire questions came from Brene Brown, who does work in shame. She's really an excellent author and speaker, and does work in shame. And she does these rapid fire questions at the end of her interviews, where she just asks questions and they just have to answer them right off the top of their heads.
Mm-hmm.
But I do rapid fire affirmations, where I want to just read a statement and I do want you to fill it in. It could be one word or a short phrase, but first thing that comes to mind, because this is your affirmation, you're speaking to yourself. So you're ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It is in my nature to see blank.
It is in my nature to see progress.
Yes. It is in my nature to feel.
It is in my nature to feel loved.
Yes. Yes. It is in my nature to attract.
Healing.
Hmm. Yes. It is in my nature to reject.
It is in my nature to reject negative thoughts of others.
Yes. Now, negative thoughts from others or of others. So, like from them
From
coming to
others. From
you.
others.
Yes. Negative thoughts from others. Okay. From others. It is in my nature to embrace.
It is in my nature to embrace. It is in my nature to embrace. I'm trying to think of how to put in words.
That's okay. Yeah. Take your time.
It is in my nature to embrace success because that's something
Yes.
that's for me. I have to work on that.
Yes. Yes. It is in my nature to love
Others.
others. And lastly, it is in my nature to be.
The most strongest, influential, positive man I can be.
Yes. I love it. And so, as we close, the first thing I'm going to do before I give you back your affirmation is just remind everybody who has been with us this evening to please follow and support at the Heirloom Foundation and at Plants for a King on IG. Whatever work that we do, we're doing it deeply from the deepest parts of our hearts and our souls and our experiences. And we are doing them every day. We're just making an effort. Nothing that we have in our minds is perfect. Nothing that we've done is perfect, but our effort is true and real. And so we want to invite people to support us in that way. The Heirloom Foundation is a 501c3, so we do accept donations. And then when LaTim decides to get to that space where he's collecting monies and all of that stuff, that's going to come very soon too. So with that being said, LaTim, I want to give your affirmation back to you and say, I wish and pray and hope for you and God to be co creators in your future as you see progress, feel love, attract healing, reject negative thoughts from others. Embrace success, love others, and that you are the strongest, most influential, most positive man you can be. I wish that for you.
I receive it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you for your time this evening. I really appreciate it. I can't wait for more to come from At Plans for a King, but do things at your pace.
Yes.
Make sure that you are filled in the work that you do. And as a nurse, we have deep prayers for you. And we thank you for what you are doing in the midst of this panini that we are experiencing.
Yes.
It's just a mess, and you are in the heat of it. And we want to thank you. And we pray for all of those who are doing the same work. So
thank you.
Wonderful evening. My mom is saying, let your light shine. She literally, oh, he let it shine. She's saying it right now. He let his light shine.
Well,
people are receiving it. Yes. And they're saying, excellent conversation. Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you both. So you have made an impact already. So thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. LaTim, stick here with me for a moment. Have a great one. We'll see you all again next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.